Yo, 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 it's your friend Dinner Dog. And yo, look at this juicy part of the castle. Dude, 9 item checks? Fucking 9 of them? Yo, this place is the best. You can get so much stuff here. But kind of look at this here. Look at all this place I need to move. It doesn't seem very long, but like it actually kind of takes a long time. So, welcome to 306. We're going to talk about game state and we're going to go over that example in just a little bit. But let's dive into what we're going to look at here. So we're going to talk about what game state is. We're going to visualize it out, showcase some decision making examples, and then we'll talk a little bit about poise. So let's get right into it. So what is a game state and why the hell are we talking about it? So your game state is your ability at any given time in the game to deal with what's right in front of you at that given time and then the future challenges from that given time. So, it's things like, am I going to die, which is the most immediately challenging, right? Am I going to die? That's a problem. Can I even beat the room I'm in right now? Can I beat the next boss? Which is, given how SotN is, usually the answer is yes. Do I have enough money for the library? Can be a problem. Can I meet the next clock rush? Am I able to tackle the second castle? That's a legit question. Can I beat all rocks? Right? If I'm in the first castle, that's a problem. Can I beat Shaft and Dracula? And how comfortable can I do all these things? That's your game state. It's sort of saying, what is my ability to do tasks based on the equipment I have, the relics I have, and my raw talent at the game. Because sometimes you can do a lot with little, and the better you can do a lot with little, the faster you're going to be at this game. And all these essentially compound into your game state. And it's really beneficial, especially in racing, to have a good sense of where am I in the game and then allow that to help you make some decisions. The primary one is, do I need to check items? Because I am checking and eat a lot of time into your race. To a lesser extent, and you don't want to worry about this until like you've really got a good sense of things. But and like this is really hard to do, but you could have a game state of, am I winning this race? Am I behind? Based on decisions you've made, and then you can change decision making from there, right? Like, am I going to leave a relic check behind? Do I need that to catch up? Or I'm very far ahead. I don't need to leave relic checks behind. I can afford to do it, right? Things of that nature. So really, it just helps us understand when to check items and when to use the menu in particular, especially around this am I about to die piece, right? We want to use the menu immediately if that's the case. So let's visualize this out a bit, because we often get questions in the long library and such about how many item checks do I need to do, right? And really, it depends. It really depends on a lot of things, right? Depends on what you have, depends on the challenges ahead, and depends on your raw ability in the game and your comfortability to go through it, right? So it kind of works out in this chart here. So on the up and down here, we've got your want to do an item check or to use the menu. And then, obviously, I'm going to check everything at the top, or I'm going to check nothing at the bottom. And then your game state is going horizontally here. So at the far left end, we're dead. We don't want that. That's what we want to avoid entirely. And then you're bonkers powerful on the right hand side. And this blue line is kind of your thinking around, well, in this case, mostly for items, but also, do I want a menu? Could be visualized the same way. So if I'm about to die, I absolutely want to menu. I need to do that. I need to look at what's going on. I need to take a breather and pause the game. We'll talk about that in a moment. Or for item checks, right? I'm in a really bad place. I can't beat the area I'm in. Well, or I anticipate I cannot beat the area I'm about to go in. So I should probably do some item checks before going there, right? Maybe I'll spend a bit more time in the librarian menu because I am going to die in this next section. I cannot do the second castle with what I have. Things like that. And then as you walk away from I'm going to die, I can't do what's in front of me, etc., then your need to do item checks slides down. And you can start avoiding item checks. So like let me give you a good example. The When you're in reverse all rocks heading to Dracula and you get into the room with Asgal, right? To the top left is the secret hidden room. It's got Cthulhu and a couple dancers in it, but it's got some item checks in it. And we almost never ever check those items, right? Because you're at the end of the game at that point. But we had a casual seed one time where our game state was great to get to Dracula. We had bat, like there was nothing that could really stop us from a movement perspective because we can just wing smash through everything. But we weren't really equipped to fight Shaft or Dracula. And I think everyone was kind of in the same boat. Like people were 4 or 5 cycling Dracula, and you know what I did? I actually checked those items because my game state was I can't beat Dracula and Shaft in an efficient manner. Especially think about Shaft because his defense is so high. So the higher, or the more you hit, the obviously less hits you need to take, but more so in a percentage because of his defense, right? Because you have to meet that minimum bar to do more than one, and then it's just gravy from there. The So my game state would have probably been around here at the upper end here. That's not fun. The Yeah, you should be able to see my mouse. But anyways, so I said, screw it. I'm gonna do this extra item check. It's gonna cost me 20 seconds, but maybe I can do it one cycle faster or avoid dying. You do not want to die. I ended up dying, even though I got a better sword. And I went back for it after I died, and like I didn't win the race or whatever, but I was in a better place because I did it, right? Or there's item checks in like the reverse clock room if you go down the shaft where you get like let's say like reverse gravity boots for lack of a better word. The Like there's stuff there, right? And sometimes you need that if you're in a really bad place. In our case, we were hitting for like 30 with like a one hit sword at that point. Like everyone was having a disaster, and I ended up getting like a 2 hit sword that did like 40. And you can say, okay, well that's not much better, but it made a big difference, and it certainly cut down a couple cycles I had to do, even though I ended up dying. So it shifts around, right? I'd almost never do that check, but in the context of the situation, it made a lot of sense. And I told people after that race, like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. So, but what you want to aim to do is you kind of want this line here to be closer to the left-hand side than the right. And you need to have a place in your mind where you say, I don't need to do item checks anymore. I'm not bonkers powerful, but trying to become bonkers powerful either will not happen or it's going to it's going to take so much time to find all those things. It's not going to be worth my while. The And your raw ability to just handle situations will help you get this line further over. So it's going to take time. So just think about this in your head, and you can use it as a compass to say, do I need to check more items, and more particular, do I need to menu? Because on the menu side, I see so many people menu where it's like there's no threat around them, and they're like, ooh, I got a cape. Capes are bad guys. They like Constitution is not a good stat. Yes, it gives you a bit of defense. Sure, right? It's got a complicated formula. I should probably cover it at one point, but it's not really worth it most of the time, especially if you're not in danger. The cape isn't going to do much for you. It's not going to improve your game state, right? Walking into that menu, and that's what you should be thinking. Like, does me going into the menu right now actually make me faster? Does it make me objectively safer in the moment or going forward? And do I need that safety right now? And most of the times that answer is going to be no. Like even think about the beginning of the game, which is probably what the next video is going to be. But you're so good with your fists. You're so good with spells, and the enemies are kind of pushovers, right? You don't need to equip that cape, all right? Now, if you're in danger, equip the cape, absolutely, right? But other than that, don't go for the cape. Probably don't go for the armor. Don't go for the headgear. You're fine, right? The So the one thing you want to avoid, like, and no matter what this curve is for you, right? It's going to be at a different place for everyone. But here's what you want to avoid. I'm going to go to the next slide here, if it'll let me. Here we go. You want to avoid this, the fear of missing out line. So there comes a time when everyone's like, hey, I'm doing really good here, but maybe I could do better, right? And they still check the same amount of items, even though they probably don't need it. And they're gonna do that until they become bonkers powerful, right? Like you see people like it's like, oh, I have shield rod and like iron shield, but I could have Alucard shield, right? Better keep digging, right? Like don't do that. You're not gonna save that much time, right? You're fine with the iron shield. It's probably well enough, right? You don't need to become bonkers powerful to be fast at the game. You need to make good decisions to be fast at the game. Or like have some kind of items. Yeah, not having anything is probably bad. But yeah, you want to avoid this fear of missing out line. It's a problem. And I know you're saying, but you know what? But Dinner Dog, man, I can get a library card and that could be so helpful. And like, I need to look further into library cards because like, there's certainly a lot of situations where they're amazing, but I think they're overvalued a bit. And like, what's the odds of actually getting a library card from like a pot, right? I mean, the way that the randomizer is built is that items are distributed through the game at the same frequency that they're found in the game, right? So, I mean, certainly I must have a really good chance of this, right? Well, guess what? I did the math. I literally looked at every item. I took it from the code on the GitHub to see how many times an item is moved around. And library card has 8 instances, but when taken all together, you've got like a 1.5 essentially chance, right? It's not a good chance. It's probably not worth your time. So don't do it. You're like just try to get it off of a enemy if they drop it, things like that. Like taking time like to go and get that library card, it eats into the benefit of actually using a library card, right? If you have to really go out of your way to get it, especially if that's kind of the only thing you're going for, and that's what I mean by this fear of missing out line. Don't worry about the library card. It's very probable you won't get it. Just rely on what you have right now, especially if it's really good and your raw talent, and you'll be fine. You'll save time. By the way, this spreadsheet is in my random item spreadsheet. I will put a link in the description if you're interested. I don't think this is very useful. But it was kind of fun to take a look into it. Anyways, so going forward from there, let's look at a decision-making example. We find ourselves back in the keep, right? So this place is really cool. I'm going to get 9 item checks checking all those things, right? And that's really fun. But let's look at a few things here. If we're doing this when we first get to the keep, right? And we're not going to the second castle right away, will any of these 9 items objectively make me faster through the run right now? And like, if you've got things that you could easily beat Aurochs with, then the answer is probably no. Remember the library card example. All these things you can put 0.16, and I technically understand that it gets a bit higher every time you find something that's not a library card, for all you statistic nerds. But let's just keep it simple for now, and then just you can see, it's essentially 1.25% every time you try to open one of these pots, right? So you're not likely to find it, right? Like, let's just say it's like a 10% chance. It's like, it's not the greatest. And then you need to look at, well, you can get other stuff here, but then you need to look at a few other things, right? It will take you, if you're just doing this from the keep the first time, if we're assuming that you're standing right here, you have to jump up, hit this button, go up, go over here, go back, grab this pot, and get back to this same position. That takes about 20 to 23 seconds. Plus, you have to take into account the time that it will take to get any max ups that you accidentally pick up. That adds time. And then if you actually find something that you're going to menu for, then you need to count in the menu time as well. So like this easily can become 30 seconds. And look at this. I timed Dracula's first phase from when he's on the screen, first dropping down to when he leaves. It's 22 seconds. And like, how many times have you been fighting Dracula and being like, I gotta get through this guy. Like, yo, just die, just die, just die. I don't want to do another phase, right? And I understand that there's more to the phase. There's also like the interlude time and stuff like that. But like, just the time he's on screen, 22 seconds, and you're gonna give that time up. Like, just remember that feeling at the pit of your stomach when you're fighting Dracula. You just want this thing to end, right? Like, do you want to add like another like phase to that? No, right? Like, come on. That's not fun. So usually how I look at this, and I do check these items, don't get me wrong, like it's very efficient from an item check perspective, right? I'm getting 9 items, 23 seconds at worst, right? Like that's pretty efficient. But if I am comfortable to beat the first castle in its entirety, I'm going to check this later when I'm going to go to second castle, because one of two things are going to happen. One, I'm going to avoid this little backtrack here because I'll go up here, come over here, and then just continue moving, right? And by the time I come back here to go to the second castle, my game state might be in a point where I don't need to check this at all. Maybe I don't have Jewel of Open yet. You eventually get Jewel of Open. You go down to the catacombs. You find a duplicator, right? And you can say, screw it, I'm going to save this 23 seconds, right? Like, how many races have been won and lost within like 1 or 2 or 5 to 10 seconds, right? Like, this is good. And then also all the other item checks you're potentially skipping as a result too, by just thinking that I don't necessarily need to do them right now. But I think that this is a great thought experiment because it's so close to the second castle, and obviously the difficulty jumps really high when you're going there. Like you're in danger in the second castle depending on what you've got in terms of relics and items and such, right? So just save, like, if you're able to save this decision until later, especially if you're pretty comfy to beat all rocks, and just try to get value as much as you can from what you have. And again, especially when you have item rando on, the more you can do with less is so beneficial, and you'll just see your times fall. Like, just get over the FOMO. All right. So one more thing we got to talk about here, which plays for game state, is poise. And so this usually comes up when you're about to die, and you can avoid dying by using poise. So poise, in terms of like what does this word mean? It can mean a number of things, but one definition is being graceful and holding form, and this can be in spite of challenges that you're facing here, right? So the direct quote from, I think it's like Webster's or something, was easy, self-possessed, assured of manner, gracious tact in coping or handling, right? So I'm going to handle what's in front of me with cope and grace, right? No problem. The For a game example, you can look at Dark Souls. They literally use the word poise, and it's your ability to hold form. So you will not get staggered as the player if you have poise and your poise doesn't break. It's essentially like a value that runs in the background, and as you get hit, you expend that value, and as long as it's not broken, you stay in your form and you can attack and you don't go into like hit recovery, right? Now, obviously, Alucard's always going to go to hit recovery no matter how much he gets hit by. The degree of his hit recovery does depend a little bit. Obviously, if you get Big Toss, that's a huge hit recovery. But the point of the matter is, what I'm trying to get with poise, is it's your ability to face danger and not lose your cool, not panic, not get stunned, right? So it's just something you do in your head where you recognize, I am in danger right now. And either you're going to clutch it out because you're a beast, or the other thing you can do is pause the game, right? So this whole concept applies to racing, because the dying is bad, and the less you save your game, the more time you save in general. So the more you're able to avoid dying and holding form in times when it's very dangerous and you can get juggled and all that kind of stuff, you're more likely to not need to save, and then you're more likely to survive and all that good stuff. But pausing the game is top tier. If you are going to die, just hit the pause button, or you feel you're in danger, take the couple seconds to assess your situation. And this can be done a couple of ways, right? So other than just keeping your cool, you can pause the game by both bringing up the inventory or the map, right? And I don't do this enough, but the map is such a powerful tool. And the reason why the map is powerful is because you can still see what's going on when the map's there, right? So you can visually say, okay, how much danger am I actually in? And sometimes, like, what I've realized is I'll panic hit the pause button, to bring up the menu, and then I'll do a whole bunch of things. And then when I get back into the game and do all those things, I realize I wasn't actually in that much danger. So hitting the map button quickly can be beneficial. Now, the unfortunate part is if you do need to menu, going from map to menu is going to cost a couple of frames, and maybe that's the difference between life and death. But I do think it's a viable option to just open the map in a such a situation and then take action accordingly. The biggest thing is your inventory almost always has an answer. Almost every single time you're going to have an answer in your inventory. So the more you get comfortable with understanding, especially like use items, because I think they're underappreciated, and how they can help you out in a situation, the better you're going to be. So like bomb items like pentagrams are sweet. The powers of Sire are amazing. Pictures of Dad are always fun. And they're just going to kill pretty much everything most of the time, right? Your generic enemy typically doesn't have a huge health pool, and you can probably kill them with one of these. Or in actual case, some enemies actually do have hit recovery. Like, what's a good example? When you're going through the mines to the catacombs, and there are those witches that fly. If they get hit, they actually can enter a hit recovery, and so like maybe you can just stun them enough to give yourself a little bit of space, right? Or you can, or other things like that, right? iframe producing items are great. So a lot of the medicine items will give you iframes. I believe even heart refresh will give you iframes. You can do a sword special in some cases, like if you equip, let's say you've got the Alucard sword, just equip that and do a sword special that will give you continuous invulnerability frames as long as you keep doing the special. You can change your equipment for more defense, so like pull off the duplicator and like just look at your menu to see what else you have. And you could even do this like against Akmadon when he's tossing you around. You can pause the game and be like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. And be like, oh wait, not so fast. Let's take off the duplicator. Let's put on the Noglamir, right? And save yourself from a horrible fate. You can pop a shield potion, which gives you 20 plus defense. The You could use food, especially if you happen to be close to a wall, because you can just bounce it off and you're gonna get healed right away. Whereas you gotta wait for a bit of a delay with potions. If you happen to have fairy card, you can equip that. The All sorts of good stuff. Or you can just pause the game and realize like, hey, I actually have power of mist, and I have mist, and realize you can do that, right? Like keeping your cool is the answer almost all the time to a I am going to die game state. There's so many answers. So I'm gonna leave it at that. This video is probably long enough as it is, but these things are cool thought experiments. And the more you think about how can I do more with less and avoid the FOMO, you'll save time objectively in your runs. And then the more you can get acquainted with what do I do and get into a habit of preventing death when death is imminent, you'll be set yourself for success. So this is all cool stuff. And again, this is 300 series, so it's pretty in the weeds. If you're still like learning the randomizer and stuff, you shouldn't worry about any of this yet. Come back a bit later. Anyways, that's all for me. Hope you have a great night. Cheers. We'll see you soon.